Welcome to today's video on columnar conifers, and we're going to do a tour of the gardens, our landscape, and show you quite a few different varieties, but we'll also touch on pyramidal conifers. And the difference being columnar tend to be more of a straight up column, same width on the bottom as the top, whereas pyramidals, they're gonna flare out on the bottom. So we'll mention several, and the line can be kind of blurry when you define a columnar to a pyramidal plant, and you can also manipulate the shape of a plant to, well, keep a columnar effect. So we're first part of August here. It might seem a little hazy. We're getting some smoke rolling in from Canada. Been one of those summers. So I'm gonna grab the camera here and we're gonna start walking through the gardens. I'm gonna also do my best to kind of keep this more of a raw format where I don't edit it quite as much. So if I mistakenly mention the name of a plant wrong, well, I'll put the right one below the plant, as I do on pretty much all the videos that I do. I try to give you the most accurate name and zone rating that I can. Okay, this is North Pole Arborvitae, definitely that column type habit where it's the same width on the bottom as the top, and this is going to get some size to it. I believe it's supposed to level off around 15 feet, but I think this is going to exceed that height. But a nice arborvitae, really hardy for us, has never seen any burning, snow's never taken it down. So a good plant if you're looking for a larger, tall, narrow statement. I'll quick mention a couple other ones right there. That's Dakota Sunspot Potentilla, some summer wine 9-barks there. This is one of the Swiss stone pines, and it's not a column plant, but you do see some that are, well, they're quite narrow and upright, but that's going to get wider than 6 feet. Okay, let's go ahead, cut back through here, and I've got two of them there I want to show you. I'm going to stay back here for a little bit so the sun doesn't like magnify and you get that glare, but them are Medora junipers, and I planted those two at the same time. One was about 4 feet tall, one was 2 feet, and I thought, you know, I'm gonna see if I can have it where they're a little bit different size as they grow, but they pretty quickly just matched up, and now they're just even in size, and I wanted them to blend together like that. I really like that effect. But the Medora juniper, a great one for my area, Northern Great Plains, a zone 3 type plant, and just super hardy. There is a little bit of a scent with the Medora juniper. Some people they say it smells like cat urine to them. So if you don't like that type of strong odor, it's not like a good evergreen odor that you get with some of the different cedars or pines. So just keep that in mind. But excuse me, a really, really hardy juniper. There's one more Swiss stone pine. That's the Prairie Statesman. And definitely a predominantly upright, but it's again, that blind can be blurry. You can have a columnar plant or a pyramidal plant, and they'll vary a little bit. I always have this needle burn, though. It's a little bit better this year. You can see that brown in there, and I've lost a lot of needles, so it's got kind of a, well, not as thick as one would hope that you get with the Swiss stone pines, but a nice plant. It's introduced from my advisor from when I went to college at North Dakota State University. Okay, next up here we've got, that's a Wichita blue, probably the bluest, most bluish silvery conifer we've got growing. I really like the color on it. That's supposed to stay in that 6-foot range. I might have to start shearing it. I don't want to, but I kind of overplanted this bed. Here's a closer look at that blue. Yeah, just a really nice plant. Next is some chokeberry on the right, Aronia, you might be familiar with that name. And right next to that Wichita blue, that's a columnar hackberry. Okay, next up we've got the weeping white spruce, one of my all-time favorite conifers. That's a good size one now. I've seen a few that are bigger than that in my area, but boy, that's getting up there to be one of the bigger ones that I've seen. But a nice pendulous habit on those branches where they kind of just droop and arch out. So a beautiful spruce, very, very hardy, the weeping white. This little conifer, well, we're going to put that in the columnar category. That's Joe's Bess, bristlecone pine, a little dwarf, grows really, really slow. And we're going to go make it around to the front of our landscape, and we'll show you a Sherwood compact bristlecone pine. There's a Swiss stone pine tucked back here behind these honeyberries, and that's got a really nice, well, a thicker color. getting a little bit of that needle shed, which some of it's normal. But this, I believe, is just a straight species, Swiss stone pine. So I might have to lift up those lower branches eventually because they're going to get choked out and shaded out. Oh gosh, I'm going to try to stay on topic. So many different interesting plants I'd love to talk about in this bed. Another columnar plant, a flowering crabapple. Okay, let's get you back over here. I'm going to do my best to keep my shadow out of this as we walk this way. That's one of the columnar Norway spruces. And doing pretty good there. This is a really, really, well, dry area. These large Colorado spruce that you see here, they just take a lot of moisture, nutrients, so a very, very, well, competitive type area. That thin that you see right in the middle, I don't know, it got hit with deer browsing one season, and it just never fully recovered. Again, a tight area. That's a European mountain ash. I believe it's a showy mountain ash right there. So I've got, well, some pruning I'm going to have to do to keep those two from completely mingling together. Let's see if we can find an opening in here. Okay, this is one that I transplanted, I believe about almost 2 years ago now. And that's Blue Arrow juniper. I had a commenter ask to do an update on that. Well, here it is. It's, you know, it's got good tip growth all the way around. And that's the most important thing, that I didn't see like severe needle drop. Still a little bit of browning in there, but doing pretty good. It's made it through, I think, then its second winter. And I've still got a lot of room to plant in this new bed. I've transplanted a sedum to the right there, aster, got some monarda back here. So still, that's how I kind of roll in my landscape now, is I'll create beds so I've got the opening if I find a plant that I like. And I'm starting to have to do more transplanting than I used to because, well, trees get big and they start covering up little perennials. Okay, this is a nice little area here too. That's a weeping larch in the foreground. Dwarf cesters, I'll quick mention right there, the blue, and that would be more of the pyramidal shape I'm talking about. But the columnar one we've got growing here, two of them, that's DeGroot Spire arborvitae. Not going to get as big as that North Pole. Those are probably, well, they're nearing, I would say, what they probably would say mature height, staying in that 3 to 4 foot width. I really like the multiple tips, or I call it forking. And I've got another DeGroots back here, planted at the same time, believe it or not, about half the size. It's just drier back here. I think I got some spider mites on it a few years back, so that kind of slowed it down as well. And it's really starting to compete with that mountain frost pear that you see there. So yeah, I've got some decisions to make there too, getting a little crowded in there. And here's a columnar plant too. This is another one of the European mountain ash varieties. That's a columnar deciduous one. All right, let's see what's next up here. One of the yellow or golden Norway spruce varieties maintaining a, well, I'm going to call that columnar. I'm betting that as that gets older, it would be considered more of a pyramidal, but for me, it's staying quite narrow on the bottom. So yeah, nice. Okay, tucked in back behind, we've got a weeping cedar here, a buckeye. Those are Taylor junipers. Probably the narrowest conifer that we've got growing in our gardens. Just a really, really nice, tight, upright shape. And those are supposed to get about 25 feet tall. I just love how they're doing there. That buckeye, by the way, I'm going to put together a video where I'm going to have to keep that small. I really forced it in there. That can get way bigger than that. I'm going to try to keep that, well, I'm going to prune it every spring, and then I might even open up the branches on the inner side there. Give it more of a, I don't know, bonsai look maybe. So I'm going to have a little fun with that one and experiment. And I'll experiment so you don't have to. You can see if you like the look. Oh, here we go. This is amber gold arborvitae. Another nice, I'm going to put that in the columnar category, but the yellow or golden version. Beautiful, beautiful one. Let's spin around here. We're going to show you, oh, well, there's one more. Medora, look at the size of that one. And that was planted about the same time as those other ones, maybe a couple years more, but about twice the size, gets a lot of water in that location. Here's one that's been manipulated in a, well, a spiral fashion. I keep it pruned that way, but that's actually columnar green juniper. And I overwinter it artificially. I lay it under a tarp each season because root systems just are not as hardy as the above ground portion. So that's done well in the container. I bet it's 7 or 8 years I've had it in there now. Wanted to make sure I didn't miss anything over on this side. There's one more of those amber gold arborvitaes doing nice in our water feature area. And we'll quick mention this other Colorado blue spruce. This is one I always forget the name. And I planted this originally. It was supposed to be a globe, but some of the globe Colorado spruce can eventually revert to a pyramidal plant. And sure enough, boy, this one did. And maybe it was mislabeled. But I'm going to keep that one sheared about that size. I don't want it to get any bigger and compete with that Royal Frost birch there. Over time, we'll lift up those branches as well. They'll probably, those lower branches will be, well, gosh, they're going to end up being probably lifted up as high as this pergola that we've got here. Oh, I missed one. I'm going to quick run way back here, show you one more that stays. This is a Serbian spruce. That's the Bruns Serbian. You can see the lower branches have been pruned up. I used to have it where they were draping on the ground and the rabbits came in this last winter and they just completely devoured the needles. And on a conifer, that kind of damage, it's probably, they're never gonna, well, re-leaf like a deciduous plant will. So that's the Bruns Serbian. That one's, well, it burned up on me one winter, and but it flushed out. The candles stayed viable, or the new growth, when I say candles, and doing well there. And let's quick swing you around here. A predominantly pyramidal Serbian spruce, the Gotelli weeping, right over there. Beautiful, beautiful spruce. Just love that one. All right, let's head around to the front to see if we have just a couple more that we can talk about here. That's a Montgomery spruce. I'm also keeping that one sheared in that shape. About every other year now, I just kind of prune off some of the growth. Here's a few more Taylor junipers. Those took forever to get going. I think it was about 5 years. They just kind of, they were little 2-footers and they wouldn't grow. And now, just these last 2 seasons, they're finally starting to take off and fill in a little bit. So that'll take care of, well, that long empty wall. I'm looking forward to see how those do in there. Here's one more Swiss stone pine tucked away in behind this Canada red cherry and the Prairie Horizon alder. Yeah, a lot of plants. You'd think I like plants with how much I've overplanted here. Here's a better look at that. I believe this is the Algonquin Swiss stone pine. That's what I wish our other Swiss stone was doing, that Prairie Statesman. You can see just a little bit thicker. Hasn't really done the needle shed that we're seeing on that one for whatever reason. It's always something. You don't know why sometimes either. Okay, let's take you up to this front conifer bed, and we're going to show you Troutman juniper. There's another weeping white right there, doing nicely there. So right in the center, that's Troutman juniper. And I've left this one alone. A little bit more of a loose habit, but it's predominantly upright. That's kind of, again, right in the range between it being a columnar or a pyramidal plant. This is another Serbian spruce there. Let's walk you around and get a view from the other side on that Troutman, and then I'm going to show you a Troutman that I'm keeping shaped in as just as tight as form as I can. There it is. Yeah. So nice upright columnar plant there. One of the weeping Colorados. This is actually a Scots pine here. Supposed to stay more of a 3-foot height, but I keep getting it wanting to turn into something else. There's a, well, we're going to put that in the pyramidal category, one of the upright columnar Colorado or pyramidal spruces. There's the Troutman I was mentioning that has a, well, I'm keeping it sheared into, I call it kind of almost a, well, like a pencil. I'm going to keep it as narrow as I can. So that's something you can do with the various conifers. You can shape them. You just make sure you start at the time where you like the size. You couldn't take something like that and make it into a, well, half the size and keep it looking good. And right behind it there, another bristlecone pine. I mentioned that first one, that Joe's Best. This is a Sherwood Compact bristlecone pine. Nice little specimen conifer tucked away in there in our front area. Holmstrup arborvitae, again, I would put this in the pyramidal category. There's 3 of them in there. That one flares out quite a bit on the bottom. Okay, let's go ahead. Let's walk back to our starting point. Take one last look through here, see if I missed anything in the columnar category that I wanted to talk about. I love creating pathways in our landscape that you can kind of walk through, and I don't know, it just changes the whole effect. And you'll notice too, I do quite a bit of contouring where I raise my beds up. I think that adds a lot to the equation or the feel of our gardens and our landscapes. Give you one little look there. And I like these oversized, well, I guess we'll call them steppers. Just love the effect that they create when you, like, well, not overdo, but you exaggerate something. Same thing here as we come across some of these oversized slabs. And we're back to where we started. This is one of my absolute favorite areas to view our gardens and our landscape, with that rusted pergola offering a nice color contrast, as well as, well, you know what, creating frames and just different viewpoints. I just love this area. All right, that's it for now. That's all I've got for you on columnar and, well, pyramidal conifers. I appreciate you stopping by. We'll see you again next video.